Before I was born-again Christian, I was a Catholic. Honestly, for a while, I just let it be. Because I was so busy with medical school, there's a point in my life where I just said, God, you just take a back seat first, and I'm just going to do what I have to do. I felt as if that was something that could wait. One afternoon, my mom visited me at the hospital, and we were having lunch, and I just noticed she was more calm. She just, honestly, she had this radiance about her. She would always be peaceful, even if circumstances would be so trying sometimes, or things would be so difficult. I said to myself, this is strange. This is strange, and this is something real. You know, it couldn't have been because of anything else but her being part of the church. So I said, you know, I wanna know more about this church. I just decided one day to go to the Bel Air locale. I went there and I didn't have a clue what the church was about, but I sat in and I listened through the whole sermon, and I was so focused on it, and I said to myself, this could be it. I want to know more about this church. All these years, all these past years, I was so confused. I didn't know what was right. But after I attended that first worship service at Bel Air, it felt like coming home. After that, I told her, Mom, you know what, I visited the locale at Bel Air, and I want to know more about the church. Okay, the doctrine that hit me the hardest was the doctrine about that there's only one true God. That God doesn't have three personas. There's only one true God. And now I'm not confused anymore who I'm supposed to pray to. There's just one true God I have to pray to. During my indoctrination, I started complaining of really bad epigastric pain, and they found it a gastric tumor. I prayed a lot, and I prayed hard. I didn't want to just abandon everything just because all of a sudden I had cancer. When my doctor put the scope through me again, he said, you know, I don't know what you did. You probably asked the entire village to pray for you, but the tumor isn't there anymore. I don't know what happened to it. And honestly, I was so shocked because I even saw the video of it. Of course, I know the reason God allowed that to happen, because it was His way of telling me, I'm going to take care of you.
Terri Ajel spent a great portion of her life searching for the truth, and when she finally found it, she learned to embrace everything that came along her way, both the good and the bad. This is her story.
Even when I was a child, I believed there was one church because there was one Christ. I could not understand why there were so many churches.
Born in Texas, Terri Ajel and her family moved from place to place during her childhood. For years, Terri searched for a church that could answer her questions about the Trinity and keep the same values her grandmother had taught her as a child.
And so I wanted a church where if you were black, if you were white, if you were Asian, Filipino, Vietnamese, that was accepted by everyone, most especially by God. I was working with a friend that was a member of the church, and they always kind of persecuted her because she didn't celebrate Christmas, and she always came early on Wednesday so she could attend the worship service Thursday morning.
That friend invited Terri to an Iglesia Ni Cristo Bible study.
The first time I entered the church, I felt God. The power of God was so strong that I knew before I heard the teachings that that's where I belonged. But then the lesson that day was about the Trinity. So you see, for me, God had already embraced me. The minister, no matter what question, no matter how simple the question or how difficult, he went to the Bible. I was the one that I was just thriving to hear more and hear more and hear more. And the more I heard, the more I knew that this was the church that God intended me to join. Because I had been looking for like 3 or 4 years for a church. But I didn't want to settle on a church that wasn't true. And I wanted to worship God for who He was and Christ for who He was.
A few years after she was baptized, Terri became a choir member and then a choir leader. She eventually moved to Texas, where her faith was tested.
I was performing here for a special gathering, district special gathering. And what I remember is I was so sick and my head was just in so much pain. And I kept praying, let me get through this performance and I promise I'll go to the doctor and see what's wrong. But by the time I stepped down from the choir loft and got in my car, I couldn't see. And I just kept praying, God, if I've done something to make you angry, not to let me perform, is there something that you're trying to reveal to me? So God literally got me to the hospital because I could not see one lane or the other on the highway. They were just like tripled. And everything was a big blur. And then when I got to the hospital and they found out it was my diabetes, they told me it was a miracle I was alive.
If you were to ask Terri today what she thinks kept her alive, she would tell you that it was God answering her prayer.
If I would advise someone, I always tell them, when you're at your lowest point, pray. You have to have faith. Really, when you pray, you have to believe in what you're praying. Otherwise, why would God believe you? And as long as you do everything sincere, deep from your heart, there's nothing God won't do for you. You go through bad times, you go through good times. But what you do is you embrace the bad times as much as you do the good times.
Terri takes all that life offers her, happiness and pain. But her best times are when she's able to thank God, who allowed her to find what she'd always been looking for. Him.
You've just witnessed the stories of people whose lives may have never crossed paths, but are now linked together simply by their stories of faith. I'm Cynthia Van Schemelhout. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.